Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to the Think and Grow Rich Mastermind live show. My name is Dr. Peter A. James, and I am the high performance coach helping you to shift your mindset. And today, we're going to help you to shift your mindset to a new sense, particularly the sixth sense, chapter 13, step 13 of Napoleon Hill's phenomenal Think and Grow Rich. But without further ado, I am not by myself. I'm not going to be doing all the talking today, because we have a special guest who's going to be joining us today to dive on into Napoleon Hill's great book, and particularly the 13th step, the sixth sense. And here is actually, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our distinguished angels, our hosts, who are going to help us talk today about this chapter and this book overall. Let's go ahead and then bring on in Pegeen. Pegeen, good morning to you. How are you doing?
Good morning, Peter. I am so excited. This particular chapter, this discussion that we're having, and, the excitement about knowing that the sixth sense, the infinite intelligence, and how we're tapped into this amazing intelligence that allows us to expand ourselves, increase who we are, prosper ourselves, and just be a more dynamic, more powerful individual that really is able to influence, impact, and inspire those around us and the world at large is a gift. This particular chapter, though, gives some real clear strategies that you and I and everybody listening to can really expand. And for those of you, my name is Pegeen, Pegine, and I lead Power Women Worldwide, where women can be bold, be brave, be seen, be heard, and be paid well. And I'm so happy whenever I'm with my mastermind buddies. Peter, you just fill my soul. You always give me such good guidance. And then there's Galen, who, he and his Whiskey Jazz podcast, he and his smooth jazz voice and his powerful leadership skills. I can't wait to talk to him. Actually, can I bring him on? Because Galen, there's Peter. Let's just make sure that we're like all on this, because I am all over this, right, Galen?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite chapters, and I've never really understood why I've always enjoyed this chapter. But the author even says when you read this chapter, you may find that your energy gets lifted, and the more you read the chapter, the higher levels you reach in your energy. And so this is going to be an incredible conversation because of the chapter. Plus, I get to show off my younger brother, so that's kind of cool. One of the things that I enjoy about having this guest as my younger brother is very often people will think, well, if your younger siblings are doing amazing things, they clearly must have gotten it from you, right? Because you taught them everything. I'm going to let you continue to think that, but this guy's actually studied all the stuff that he's getting ready to talk to you about. One of the jokes in our family is that anytime Regis is curious about something, he ends up getting certified. He can't just read an article, read a book, watch a YouTube video like everyone else. No, he studies, he gets certified, and then he ends up teaching that thing. So I'm really, really excited to get into this conversation. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist. I am the CEO and founder of Kill Global Coaching and Consulting. We help leaders bring permanent success into their work and life. I say, let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Let's dive on into it, Galen. But we have another host that we would be remiss if we did not bring in. She's also known as the Master Builder, the Master Wealth Builder. Ann McNeil, good morning to you. How are you doing today?
Yes, yes. Awesome to have two Binghams at the same time. Oh my,
You've been
what
warned. You've been warned.
Listen, Ann McNeil, the master wealth builder, helping to build stronger, better lives and businesses. This subject of the sixth sense, many of us have had those flashes. Sometimes they're called hunches, they're called inspirations. Well, if you've ever had that, it's called the sixth sense. It's called infinite intelligence. It's called whatever you want to call it. But our desire here today is to ensure that it is the creative imagination at work. And so the program we're going to share with you today is an excellent example of how it works. And so when you think about these thoughts, you're not the only one having them. So you may as well act on them very quickly. And our special guest today is going to show you how he is doing it, not how he did it only, but how he's doing it. So let's get this show on the road.
Let's get this show on the road for sure. We do have a trivia question that is flashing across your screen right now for all of you who are watching. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And the question is, the sixth sense principle is the 13th step to riches. True or false? So please type that into the chat, whether you are on YouTube or Facebook Live. And while you're doing that, I'm going to read the bio really quickly of Regis Bingham. Yes, we have two Binghams on the show this morning. Regis is known as the financial coach. He is committed to teaching people how money works. He produces financial champions. Mr. Bingham has spent the majority of his professional career assisting people in removing limiting beliefs that impede them from living their optimal life. He's received his level 2 certification as an NLP practitioner. He's a graduate of Howard University. He's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. We won't hold that against him. He's been a TEDx talk speaker. He's a threat to the community development in the 21st century. That was his talk. So much stuff at Genius Forum. Let's bring on Regis Bingham. Regis, good morning to you, sir. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderfully. This is a great opportunity. I am so happy to be here with this distinguished panel. I've been looking forward to it for a while.
Good stuff, Regis. Your background precedes you. From what we understand, your brother precedes you as well. So much stuff we could dive on into here, but my first question for you is, how were you introduced to this phenomenal text, Think and Grow Rich? Tell us a little bit about that story, if you don't mind.
That is an amazing story just within itself. It is really been given from my father. This was one of those books that he would just have laying around the house. I think he just strategically placed it in certain places where, as we were growing up, we would just go and say, that sounds like an interesting title. And we would pick it up, thumb a couple pages, and then put it down. We'd never really read it. And it just so happened years after we had moved out of the house, my brother said, hey, remember that book that Dad would have around the house, Think and Grow Rich? Why don't we just read that and do a mastermind around that book and actually do what the book is suggesting? And that's how we've been introduced to it. The seeds were planted very early on, and it's now in full bloom.
Love it. Love it. Love that it's in full bloom for sure. let's talk a little bit more about this book. And I'm going to bring in Galen, your brother, whom I'm sure you've seen a lot in your life already, but we're going to bring him back, of course. And Galen, tease this book for us a little bit, maybe even tease this this trivia question we have as we get ready to go into this video. What is the value of the entire book and even this chapter that we're diving in from your perspective?
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of this book is how this chapter is how it brings together all of the other principles. And actually, the author even says, yeah, I mean, there's some good things in this chapter, but it really has power after you've mastered all the other elements of this book. There's one part on page 228 that I want to read to you. It says, the author is not a believer in nor an advocate of miracles for the reason that he has enough knowledge of nature to understand that nature never deviates from her established laws. So these aren't just ideas. These aren't just concepts. These are actually principles of how the world seems to work. You don't have to understand them in order to leverage them. That's one of the key things that Napoleon Hill has done so well. So with this, I want to take you guys to this video, and in the video, just understand that these are not suggestions. These are not just ideas or concepts, but these seem to be laws. These seem to work every single time, and the degree to which that we can leverage them to our benefit really only helps us achieve our goals. So with that, let's take a look at this.
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the MasterMind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the Wild Wild West days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical. But what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
So everyone, as you can see, we have the answer to the trivia question. The 13th step is in fact the sixth sense. So thank you so much for those of you who have chimed on in. Doretha, I see you there with that response. Thank you so much. I'm trying to see who else said that. Thank you so much there for playing full out. And please don't hesitate to bring your questions to the chat as well. But let's dive on in a little bit more to this, to our distinguished guest, Regis Bingham. I'm going to start out with Miss Ann McNeil. Come on to the stage really quick. I know I was going to start out with Pegeen first, but Ann, I think you have some unique insights into this chapter, the sixth sense. Wanted to definitely have you ask Regis Bingham about them. I'm just messing up my words today. There's so many Binghams here. I don't know what I'm doing today there, Ann. But this sixth sense is such a critical part of this book just in general. I want to hear your take on it a little bit, and then maybe you can introduce a question to Regis, and maybe even tell about what you have going on around masterminds overall. So I think you are on mute, or maybe I'm on mute too.
It's me. It's me.
It is
It's
you.
me.
Okay.
Yes, it's me standing in the need of you know what. Okay. Come off mute. Listen, Mr. Bingham, we have talked about this idea of this sixth sense and how it works. And so the author tells us that one of the ways to build character, if you will, is through the principle of autosuggestion. And in the principle of autosuggestion, he says that, we become basically what we think about in the form of our dominating thoughts and our desires. And so with those thoughts, we oftentimes will emulate the character of others that we desire to enhance some abilities or character within ourselves. And so this particular author talks about his invisible counselors. We'd like to know if you have any kind of experience with this concept of building character through this idea of invisible counselors.
Absolutely. This is something that I had been doing well before I actually read the book. I had what I consider hidden mentors. I had learned early on that we are the sum of the 5 people that we hang out with. Well, I had 5 people that I hung out with, even though they may have been in my mind. I hung out with people like Tony Robbins, and I hung out with people like Wayne Dyer, so that I can absorb their character as opposed to just being limited to my physical geographical location.
Wow. Wow. Can you share with us what that process may have looked like for yourself in terms of, like Napoleon Hill talks about how he chose different people for different reasons. And then he would have a meeting, and he would literally envision them sitting around this table. So what did that process look like for you? And the reason I'm asking this question, because I think it's very important as our listeners, current and in the future, are looking to build character in different areas of their lives and also in our businesses. You know, sometimes we call it a mastermind, sometimes we call it a committee, sometimes we just call it a board of directors. You're calling it invisible mentors. Can you share with us, what does that process look like for you? For example, Tony Robbins, what was it about his character that you wanted and desired to emulate?
One of the things that I just started just studying what he did and how he was able to create change in a short amount of time and permanent lasting change. And that was something that was appealing to me. Anytime you have a relationship with someone, you're going to spend time with them. And so I spent time reading what he does, what are his philosophies, how does he do things, watching him in action to be able to study. One of the things that he said himself, that success leaves clues. So if you study successful people, they're going to show you what it is that they do in order to become successful. And you just have to pick up on them. And that was one of the things about Tony Robbins that really resonated with me. And so whenever I have situations that I'm trying to figure out, I can have those conversations with Tony Robbins because he can share with me, hey, what are the clues that will allow you to be very successful? If I can segue a little bit because it's
Sure,
very
sure.
related, I have a daughter. She's 12, and she even knows. Sometimes I'll ask her, "Why didn't you ask me?" Or she said, "Because I already know what you're going to say." So we already kind of know what it is that when we know someone, we know what advice they're going to give us. And that is, again, that sixth sense is that infinite intelligence that is sharing throughout the people that come into our lives.
Excellent, excellent. And with that thought in mind, I would like to segue also over to this idea of this mastermind, if you will, of accountability to build character and learning from those people. And you said something was so key about studying. You studied the lives of those people you desire to emulate. And so we are hosting what we are calling an international mastermind beta test of accountability to help us learn how to study the good, learn from those, not to do the bad and the ugly. But what are some of the best practices? So I want to encourage all of our listeners to join us at the internationalmasterminders.com/group mastermind website and register if you're interested in being a part of our beta test. And this is an organization, not for profit, teaching, well, really learning or collecting information on what are some best practices of accountability. And I want to publicly thank you, Pageen, for blessing us this week. It was phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal what you shared before and after, when you pull back the curtain and you were just sharing from your heart about how you have come on this journey of masterminding and what you're learning. And so, Mr. Bingham, I want to encourage you to continue connecting to that infinite intelligence for yourself. And for those of you that's interested in learning more, again, you can go to internationalmasterminders.com/group mastermind. And Mr. Maestro, back to you.
Like how that sounds. That's got a ring to it there, and we might need to keep up with that a little bit more. I want to bring Pageen to the conversation. I know Pageen has been excited about Regis being with us today from a number of different levels. Number one, because now there's more than one Bingham here. It can be troubling for some, but for others, it's just we love it. So Pageen, what is your question for Regis around this chapter and maybe even this text in general?
So I actually have, hey Regis, I have actually 3 questions, and I'm going to try to just focus over here. Focus. One is I have a lot of questions about your big brother, but that's probably for off camera to get some of the nitty gritty that we can use on him in the future. But we'll have that afterwards. The second question I had for you was, I love that you were talking about, one, knowing about infinite intelligence and understanding. And I'll read in the book, it says, there is a power, a first cause, or an intelligence which permeates every atom of matter and embraces every unit of energy. And the concept of his own invisible counselors, which you also have. So here's the thing is, I love that we study success, but I heard something that you said, and I know it's something that I have struggled with, and I wanted to get your feedback about, is sometimes we don't know what question to ask. And yet, if we don't ask a question, we can never get the answers that will lift us up. How do you come up with how do you courageously ask questions of your invisible counselors? How do you, what's your process to do that?
Well, that's a very great question, Pagine. And I just want to share this is just kind of a standard question that I ask when you don't know what to ask is what don't I know that I need to know?
What a great question.
What don't I know that I need to know? Because we can only ask of things that we have knowledge that we know to ask. But the people that we're asking of, they have experiences. Those are the ways in which we learn. We learn from our own experiences, we learn from observation, and we learn from the experiences of others. And so I'm actually borrowing the experiences of others that I may not be able to touch them, but I can ask Wayne Dyer. I can ask my grandfather, who's no longer with us, but I can ask him about his experiences, and he would be able to share that with me so that I may be able to learn and prepare for the experiences that I go through.
Wow. I have to say thank you so much for sharing about your grandfather and sharing, about Wayne Dyer but I really wanted to thank you for sharing about your grandfather, because you made me remember that when I was an older teen, I had reached out to my grandfather, mi abuelo, who I had never met, but who had been an entrepreneur. And you just reminded me when you talked about this, you just sharing about that I remember asking him, nobody understands this desire in me of wanting to run a business. You're the only one in the family who has done it. I need your help. I need your guidance. I need not to feel like I was weird. Um, and thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for your other, the question of, I don't know, but I don't know, so help me out. So here you have, and then you have Anthony Robbins, you have Wayne Dyer, you have your grandfather. Who else is in your constellation that you bring in?
Well, uh, he's on the panel right now. So my brother, as well as my sister, we do meet regularly, but sometimes we all have busy lives and can't get in touch with each other regularly. But like my daughter, I pretty much know what they would tell me. And
Mm.
so I can still sit down, reach out to them, and kind of figure out what it is that I need to do because we're all connected and we're going through this life and we're having experiences and we're all just trying to help each other out and make it through this thing called life.
Wow. Now, are you the baby brother of all three, or are you the middle one?
I am in the middle. I have a baby sister and an older brother.
I love it. And I know that baby brother is watching in pride and praying that you don't say anything about him.
I have a
That
baby sister.
well, the other thing that I wanted to I want to bring in Galen because I wanted to ask both of you while you're both on, something that you said, Regis, was so impactful. And I wanted to hear from both of you, having had a dad who shared his Think and Grow Rich, who talked to you about that. How has that influenced you, and how are you creating that for your own family, your kids? So I'd love to hear that from both of you because Anne runs a program with teens to share that information. Now I'm hearing about the two of you. What was the impact on the generational impact on both of you just from what your dad did, and what are you doing bringing it forward? So I'll start with you, Regis, and then Galen, you could go and take over.
Well, being a parent, I found that I have to rely on my sixth sense a lot. And just trying to figure out, because the answers don't always readily come. And so I have to, and sometimes things just fall into your lap. I know that Napoleon Hill said he doesn't believe in miracles, but those principles are working really strongly in helping me raise my daughter. But on a more intentional basis, the conversations and guidance that I have is really around what the book is saying. She just started a new school, and she has the decisions that she had to make. And we pulled out the Think and Grow Rich book, and she had to read the chapter on desire. Is this something that you really desire? And what did that mean for you? And she kind of impressed me. She's only 12, but she impressed me and said, you know what? One of the things that she loved in that chapter was the fact that they burn their ships, right? There's no way out. It's either you do it or you die. And so those are the things that how I use this book in trying to raise a very rambunctious 12-year-old. Galen can attest that as his niece.
Yeah, hey, I want to jump into this too, because you talked about how we typically know what people will say, and you shared a story about a conversation that you had with Amber about something that she was going through, and you were like, "Well, hey, do we need to call Uncle Galen to get his perspective?" And she kind of played back what she thought I would say. Play that out, because it was scary how close she came to what I probably would have said. So play that out.
Right. So we're having this conversation, and middle school is kind of like the Hunger Games, right? So it's survival of the fittest, right? And so I said, well, she said, I'm really, really struggling with this. And I said, well, and I went through everybody in the family. I said, well, what do you think that I would say, right? And she told me, she said, well, you would just say, hey, you just got to dig in and go for it. I said, okay, well, what do you think Uncle Galen would say? He said, well, let's reflect on this. What do you think is going to be, what do you want to accomplish out of this? And then I asked, I said, what do you think your Auntie Dana would say? She was like, oh, never mind. I don't even want to talk. She's going to get in there and say, hey, you don't have any choices or options. So, yeah.
That's so funny, because I could, she's 100% right.
Hey, she can charge a high fee for that advice too. So, well, hey,
Oh my
so
gosh.
Another question that I have, we talked about, and I want to go back to the text because Napoleon Hill talks about that this is not about hero worship. And he says that, he's beyond the age of hero worship, but yet and still he has these conversations with his invisible counsel. I call them an invisible board of directors. You call them invisible mentors. But I want to go back to maybe the earliest stages that you can remember, the earliest instances that you can remember of actually stepping into that concept. I know when we used to play sports as much younger kids, there's some things that I couldn't do on the baseball field, on baseball diamond, but Ozzie Smith could do almost anything, right? So I step into Ozzie Smith, or things I couldn't do on the basketball court, but dadgummit, Dr. J could do almost anything, right? So you kind of embody that personality in order to summon those traits. What are some examples where you've stepped into that characteristic, you've stepped into that personality to do things that you acknowledge you probably didn't have the talent to do it? You talked about Tony Robbins. That might be an example, but what are some other examples of where you've actually stepped into trying to take on that persona to do some things that you didn't believe you had the ability to do?
That is a great question, because I utilize that a lot. That is actually one of the principles in NLP that I utilize a lot. Younger, playing football, of course, I had my Walter Paytons and Lawrence Taylors that I wanted to emulate. However, there are experiences in my own life, in my own past, that I summon those feelings back up again whenever they're needed. Whenever I'm going into a situation that may be fearful, I go back to the days of when I was playing football with guys twice my size. Although maybe fearful, there was a sense of courageousness that was needed. And it's the feelings that you need to be able to summon back up. And it is the feelings and knowledge that if you don't have it yourself, that you borrow from other people to be able to do this. I recall you telling our younger sister that if you don't believe, borrow my belief. All right, just borrow my belief and know that I believe for you, and we're able to move forward, and that produces the same result, whether you have it or you're borrowing someone else's.
Hey, there's one thing that you just said very briefly, and then you kind of went on to other things because that's what brilliant people do. But I want to highlight, and I love that you said it's the feeling, because we can intellectualize a lot of things. We can study and read and understand a lot of things intellectually, but intellect does not drive action. It's the feeling. And what are some things that you do to step into, and you've just shared a great example, to step into that feeling beyond? I mean, you got a lot of degrees, and as we joke all the time, you got degrees just because you were curious about something. You go study it, get certified, or get an advanced degree on that thing. So the intellectual chops are there. But what are some things that you do to step into the feeling of courage, or the feeling of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish?
There are things that, from a memory standpoint, we remember events, but that automatically produces the feeling. And there have been studies, advertisers know this very well. That's why they play certain songs and connect it to their product, because they know that music has a way of connecting us. Man, I remember when that song came out and it produced a certain feeling. One of the things that I love doing, even with my parents, just playing old music because of when they were teenagers, because I like watching them become giddy again like they were teenagers again. And so Music is a way of doing it. Just being able to remember certain events also brings about those feelings automatically.
All right. Well, hey, we could have this conversation all by ourselves like we do every Thursday night. But I got to bring in Ms. Ann. Ms. Ann, you've got to be enjoying this conversation.
Not only am I enjoying it, I'm putting information in the chat because exactly what you're saying is what the author says about the power of autosuggestion. You see, we program our mind and we are programmed by others. And so it's only what you desire can you have that feeling, if you will, to begin to identify with the infinite intelligence on what character traits you want to possess in order to uh, create what you desire. But that power of autosuggestion from ourselves and the self-talk and the autosuggestion of others is so subtle that it truly takes self-discipline and self-control to actually do the work. We talk about doing the work. So can you share with us some of the work that you do in order to uh, create? And I think Bekin hit the nail on the head about that feeling. What are some of the self-discipline kinds of things that you do? Like you said, it may be songs, it might be journaling, it might be an affirmation, it might be a prayer. So can you share with us maybe a couple of things? And we want to also encourage our listeners, and we want to thank all of you that are chiming in the chat. Please continue to remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I just want to continue to say that. So Angelina, I started to say Bikini in the chat, but Raquel, Doretha, Abundant Health, all of you, thank you so much for chiming in. But the question, what are a couple of things that you do, Regis, that you can share? And again, like I said, it might be a prayer, it might be an affirmation. And then I want to also go to what you talked about your family, because I think it's so very important to have a family mastermind, even if we don't call it that, but an opportunity in a certain place and time where you are coming together as a family to have that conversation. So let me go to the first question first.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a thing that I used to do for a long time. My parents, when I was younger, placed me in a Quaker school. And one of the principles of Quakerism is through that silent meditation, wisdom will be able to come to you. And so that's the principle that I've been practicing since high school. When I want to know something, I'm oftentimes when we're praying, we're always talking and we never take the time. And as soon as we finish talking, then I guess our prayer is over. But one of the things that I do quite frequently is just sit by myself and just be quiet and allow God to download into me the knowledge that I need to have in order to make it through the day. And it's amazing sometimes how things will get revealed to me prior to situations even happening. Again, I talk about my daughter quite frequently. She's often amazed and she always will ask, how did you know? How did you know that that was going to happen? Well, you know, she will come to understand that, in a while, but it's really a matter of sitting and, programming your mind just to be quiet and to listen.
Oh, listen, my head is bobbing around. Oh my goodness. And for those who listen to me often know, right above me, the other hand, right above me is a journal book that I wrote called A Daily Date with Myself, because you hit the nail on the head and I wrote down what you said. So I'll ask somebody to please put this in the chat. Through silent meditation, wisdom will come. Oh my gosh. So well said. So very well said. Through silent meditation, wisdom will come. And that is not easy to do for those of us that like to talk. So let me go on to my second question. How powerful do you think having an opportunity to share with your family this concept, because you mentioned your brother, you mentioned your sister, and you've mentioned your daughter. Now, I'm asking this question because I'm going to go to Peter's next question of me, and that is to talk about the annual meeting and the power. And you blessed us by bringing your family with you. You know, we had a chance to meet your beautiful bride, and I'd just like to, Peter, if it's okay, I'd like to go to the annual meeting and talk with you and have you share with our listeners, because they hear us all the time talk about why it's important that you have a plan for your life. Why is it important that once a year you should come together and be held accountable for whatever it is that you write, that you desire. So can you share with us your first experience of attending our annual meeting?
It was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. It was more than I expected, because sometimes we can feel like we're a unicorn and nobody else gets it. But to be around so many other people that are on the, not have necessarily have the same goals, but understand and have being goal driven, and being able to see older people and younger people
Yes.
come. I went with my wife, and my daughter could not come at that time. I was there with my brother, and we were able to share our goals going forward, and to listen to other people share their goals, which oftentimes would stretch me. Maybe I'm thinking small, maybe I'm playing small, but it also helps generate further discussions and conversations with your family. It gives you great family vision uh, in direction of where you're going to go. My daughter was a little upset that she couldn't make it, but one of the things that she did, she wanted to learn more, and so she got into the children's group that was streaming online in order to be able to understand more about these principles of life called Think and Grow Rich. But it's a phenomenal experience.
Well, you are blessing me. I don't know about the rest of you, but I know I'm not the host, the maestro today, a maestress. Listen, we are hosting our annual meeting, and this is a place of accountability for your life, for your life. And I like to tell people, you know, if you invest in a Fortune 500, any kind of corporation that has stock, they have an annual meeting to tell you about the health and wealth of that organization. If you work for a company, they normally have an annual meeting report to tell you, you know, if it's a family business, what on an annual basis is the health of that company. If you live in a city or county, you know, a state, you know, the mayor or the governor will come and they will give you an annual report for the state of, you know, state affairs. And I think that it's not robbery for each of us, especially those of you listening. Create an annual report for your life and be held accountable for every area of your life. And if you don't have one and you don't have any idea what we're talking about, join us in January on the 7th and the 8th. We start with the reception. I call it a founder's reception at about 6 o'clock in the evening on the 7th. We're going to be in Boca Raton, Florida at the Embassy Suites on Yamato Road. You can go to the International Masterminders.org website and register. Internationalmasterminders.com. I'm sorry, internationalmasterminders.com website, and you can register to join us. But I'll turn it back over to the maestro because this is phenomenal.
I've been thoroughly enjoying this conversation. Regis, thank you so much. This has been great. And let's bring everyone back in because I want to get ready to think about wrapping up a little bit. but I want to get everyone's ahas because listen, I have tons of ahas. You can see some of them in the chat, but I've written down a ton of notes. Pegina, let's start off with you a little bit. What has resonated with you today, number one, and then how can we stay in touch with you, Pegina, especially going into 2022?
You know, what I walked away with was the power of influence we have on young people and the power of us sharing about our experiences with Think and Grow Rich, the power of the uh, not only the mastermind, but infinite intelligence and reaching out to those role models we want to be like. I walk and that concept of the through silent meditation, wisdom will come. I'm a firm believer in that. I know that for sure. Regis, you gave us so much content and information and insights and wisdom. But most importantly, is that I think that recognizing what we do, what we say, how we act, young people are watching and they're learning and they want to gain from us. And it's up to us to really bring that forth. So I'm so grateful for that. People can reach me three ways and go to powerwomenworldwide.com, and there you'll see my work on women in business, women in leadership, and my keynote speaking. Also, you can get me every single day sharing about leadership, business, and motivation by joining Pegeen.club. It's $7 a month to have me in your ears, in your mind, and being your auto suggestion so you can believe and know. I love how Galen said it. Let me believe in you so that you can do what you need to do. Just use my belief because I truly believe in you. Go to Pegeen.club. Hey, Galen, what say you? How do we get in touch with you? What's up?
This has been a great conversation. Boy, I tell you, I mean, kind of building off of what you just shared, Pegeen, it really did kind of hit me how much people are watching. You know, people have said that character is what you do when no one's watching. Well, the problem is people are always watching. You just might not see them. And so just to hear that played back really does heighten the importance of making sure that you're stepping into who you choose to be. And it is always a choice. It is always a choice. So this has been a great conversation from my perspective. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist. You can find me all kinds of places and in a lot of different ways. I'm on every social media platform, but the most fun way to catch me is at the Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership podcast. We're on every platform. We talk to leaders from all walks of life. We talk about the whiskeys to drink, the music to listen to, but more importantly, what it really takes to be an effective leader. I double dog dare you to check us out at least once. I'm actually going to have my brother and my sister on an upcoming episode in season 3. You've heard both of us talk about my sister, but she doesn't really show up as much. We're going to drag her into that conversation. We've already had a conversation with Dr. Peter James for season 1. And Miss Ann McNeil is coming in a couple of weeks for season 2. So check us out on any platform. I double dog dare you to check us out at least once.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Ann McNeil, your ahas for today. What resonated? And then how do we stay in touch with you as well going into 2022?
Wow. I would have to say, Regis, when you shared about your father giving you the book, he planted the seed, and you really encouraged me to continue to plant the seed in young people. And we will have a surprise for all of you next week. I'm not going to give it away, but the power of planting these seeds in the young as they were planted in us, you blessed me with that. Secondly, and I wrote it down, through silence and meditation, wisdom will come. And it is a daily journey. It's not something that you do and done. It's something like taking a bath. It's something like breathing. And so you really bless me with that because it just continues to encourage. Again, my name is Ann McNeil. And yes, I am the master wealth builder, helping you to build a stronger and better business and life, but in every area of your life. And if you'd like to learn more about that, you can connect with me at annmcneil.com /coaching if you want greater clarity. AnnMcNeil.com/coaching, but only if you desire a process and do the work /coaching.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Ann. Thank you so much, Regis. Let's bring you back in a little bit. And we didn't go a lot of do a lot of detail into your financial background. I was actually wanting to go there. Our time is limited, so that means we're gonna have to bring you back. But let us know how we can stay in touch with you, what you're doing, how to connect with you as well. I know the audience wants to hear about it.
Yes, this is just a phenomenal platform, and I've taken this to helping people financially. We have a How Money Works Mastermind that takes place every Saturday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, 1 o'clock Central. You can get in touch with me with regis.bingham@wealthway.com, or you can call me directly, 570-768-8998. I am the financial coach. It is my job to create financial champions in the money game.
Love that, Regis. Thank you so much for joining us today. Especially as we enter in this holiday season, it's good to have family here with us, and you and your brother definitely are an inspiration to me and to many of us who are listening and watching, participating today for sure. What resonated for me today was about that time that we need, that quiet that we need in order to really see things better, to understand the world around us, but maybe even to chart our paths that much better as we move forward. Those of you who are watching, you have to ask, how are you taking that time, that quiet time, that meditative time, to really expand your influence, expand your focus, but also to better achieve your goals and your dreams, which of course start with small steps and processes. So all of this can play out very, very well. So many things that we spoke about today. Please don't forget about the Beta Mastermind. Please don't forget about the accountability meetings that is coming up in Boca Raton. I will be there. All of us will be there in early January in Boca Raton. Look forward to seeing you all there as well. And last but not least, my name is Dr. Peter A. James. I am the Heart High Performance Coach, helping you to shift your mindset. You can find me on any social media platform at Dr. Peter A. James. That's at DrPeterAJames, or at shiftyourmindset.com. This has been a phenomenal show. This has been a phenomenal year. Those of you who are watching, make this show. So continue to subscribe, continue to share this show with your friends, with your family. Have them jump on in, because it's not about us thinking and grow rich, you're watching. It's about all of us thinking and growing rich on so many levels. So let's bring everyone back together. I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone here, Galen, Pagine, Regis, and even our fearless producer, Brittany. Happy Holidays to you. Anybody else want to give a shout out before we get off? Go ahead, Ann.
Happy holidays, everybody.